I'm pretty sure these React videos are okay to do, but here's a really good example of word judo from the likes of Ben Shapiro, Charlie Kirk, and other people like him, who try to act reasonable, who pretend to be reasonable while actually throwing insults, who tend to twist words and use logical maneuvering to make it sound like they're reasonable when they're not. And when they don't get their way, when they actually go up against somebody who actually has some clout or somebody who actually knows what they're doing, you could just see them fall apart. Their whole argument falls apart. That's why people like Kirk and Shapiro and a little bit of Joe Rogan, but he might be savable. I've seen videos from Joe Rogan that make me think he's just one of these kind of scumbags, but then I've seen videos from him that make him sound reasonable. So I'm hoping people like him can be turned around and actually educated. But like Shapiro, he's a full card carrying, wacko. He's just a nut job. And his whole spiel is to use logical circles and word judo and just blunt force to try to make it sound like he's the reasonable one and you're the crazy one. And this is a perfect video of this. This is from somebody called the Confused Brit. It's a BBC interview from a few years ago, I think 2019, 2020, with Ben Shapiro. And this is just I hate this guy. But here, watch. I'll show you what he does. I'll try to see if I can point out all the stuff he does.
Ben Shapiro, you're followed by millions of people online and on social media. You're one of the biggest names in American conservatism. What is it you think you're tapping into?
Well, I think that there are a couple of things. One, there is actually a hunger for different ideas. The monolithic nature of the United States media is pretty evident in terms of its politics. People tend to agree on essentially the liberal point of view and increasingly a radical leftist point of view in the media.
So keep in mind here, this is one of the things that he does. So listen to the way he worded that. So the monolithic nature of American media is conservatism. The monolithic nature of American media is to be against any liberal ideas. It's making a shift toward more liberal ideas. But the way he said it flipped the script. He's now implying that the monolithic nature of the media is liberal and that old, stagnant, conservative ideas are the new ideas, that they're the new up-and-coming ideas. That's just objectively false, but that's what he stated. The interviewer didn't even realize it, the way he flipped that to make it seem like the opposite was the truth. And part of this is if you tell a lie long enough, it becomes the truth. It's one of the things that the extremist Republicans are doing right. I mean, when I say right, I mean correct for the motivations they have. I don't mean right as in it's the proper, right, moral, ethical thing to do. But if your objective is A or B, and you have to do A to get it. So they're doing A correctly. They know that if they say the same lies over and over and over again, that eventually that's what people are going to believe. It's like first impressions. When you get accused of rape, it doesn't matter if you're found innocent. It doesn't matter if the accusation was completely fictitious from the get-go. No one's going to remember you being released from jail and declared innocent. Everyone's going to be remembering you being arrested for rape. And that's how you're going to be remembered. And that's what people like him do with stuff like this.
Media, and obviously I speak in response to that. At the same time, I try to provide an honest take on the issues of the day, and that means that I am not beholden to the Republican Party, for example. It means that I am going to speak out whenever I think that a principle is being violated, just no matter who is doing the violation.
And yet he doesn't speak out against conservative violations. He only really speaks out against liberal violations. This is another case where he's twisting words to make himself sound reasonable, yet when you look at his track record, he's not reasonable. And when the BBC interviewer, tries to point this out, he gets upset and says, "You're just pulling out all of these quotes from my past." That's called a track record, Ben Shapiro. But again, logical twists. It's what I call word judo. They're playing, the martial arts with words to bamboozle you. And that's why he's very selective typically over who he will talk to. Like, you see him on his campus interviews and crap like that. He doesn't just talk to anybody. He picks his targets. He picks the people he knows he can bamboozle. If you seem like you know what you're talking about, it's over. He won't talk to you. Or if he already is talking to you, he'll just come up with a reason to end the interview and move on. Your time's up. We need to talk to somebody else. He'll just find someone else to talk to you the moment he realizes that you understand word judo and you know how to fight.
You worked for the right-wing Breitbart website, but you left over its support for Donald Trump. And I think you said you'd never vote for Mr. Trump. Why is that?
Well, in 2015, 2016, the Breitbart made a hard turn in favor of one particular candidate, and that's their prerogative.
Notice, he completely ignored the question. Okay? So, he parted ways with Breitbart at some point. This is not why. Okay, trust me, he doesn't give one single shit about a female reporter being mistreated. He doesn't give one flying fuck about that. What it was a convenient scapegoat to use for his departure. And keep in mind, he didn't dispute the fact that it's a right-wing organization, not a conservative organization. Right-wing. What's the difference? Well, here's the center, here's conservative, here's right-wing. Okay? So, and here's the center, here's liberal, here's left-wing, okay? So he's not just right-wing, he's not just conservative, he's right-wing, he's out there. Okay? Notice he didn't mention that, he didn't address that point, he ignored it, he fluffed it over, knowing that you'll forget about it, just as wordplay. And he also didn't answer the question. Let's see how long it takes for him to answer the question.
Publications have an editorial point of view, and Breitbart was one of those. The reason that I left Breitbart specifically was because of an incident in which a Breitbart reporter, a female reporter, was grabbed on the arm by...
That wasn't the question. The question is, why wouldn't you vote for Trump? Remember that. The question wasn't, why'd you leave Breitbart? He's trying to make a play on words that he's a reasonable, decent human being. And so he's prepared any answer for Breitbart to deal with this made-up reason of, I didn't like the way they treated her, that they threw her under the bus. It was just bullshit. Okay, that's not why he left. We all know that's not why he left. He doesn't have that kind of personality type. But that's his excuse because it makes him sound reasonable. It makes him sound like a decent person. Which is why, it's confusing here because that's not the question you were asked. Again, let's see how long it takes for him to answer the question.
Corey Lewandowski, then the campaign manager.
Keep in mind, this is that 1 minute and 30 seconds when he was asked that question. Okay? 17-minute interview.
For President Trump, and was bruised on the arm, and then Corey Lewandowski proceeded to lie about it, and Breitbart proceeded to throw its own reporter under the bus, suggest that she was lying or making this up. And at that point, I determined that I could no longer work for a publication that wasn't even willing to stand up for its own reporters, and instead would throw those reporters under the bus in favor of a candidate that it sought to back.
And he's so good at this that the reporter didn't even mention right away. The interviewer at this point, the BBC interviewer, should have stopped him and said, Mr. Shapiro, I didn't ask you that. I didn't ask you why you left Breitbart. But he didn't, because Shapiro's good at this. But the reporter's not a schlep. He does have some experience. He knows what he's doing, to a point. But anybody can fall for this kind of guy.
Haven't you lost your battle for the Republican Party, though? Isn't the Republican Party now the party?
So he never got the answer to his question, but he does realize it later. He does bring. I think he brings it back later. He realizes that, wait a minute, he never answered my question. That's how he bamboozles you. He moves the goalposts. They play their word judo and they shift the goalpost to something else, and you forget. Wait a minute. Well, what about this over here? No, we're over here now. What about no, we're over here now. We're over here now, and that's what he did.
Of Trump.
He shifted this from why didn't you vote for Trump, or why would you not vote for Trump, to I'm a good guy. I left them because they were nasty to a reporter and threw her under the bus. See how he did that? He's making himself seem like a reasonable person.
No, I mean, I think that the Republican Party is always the party of whomever is the president, technically speaking. But in terms of who are the sort of the thought leaders inside the conservative movement, who are the people who...
See, and there's another classic tactic of word judo artists. A non-answer. So he said that the thinking of the political party is whoever's in charge. It's a non-answer. He didn't answer the question. He gave a non-affirmative answer. He's not stating his position either way. He's ignoring it and giving a bland non-answer.
Who are driving a lot of the discussion inside the conservative movement. I don't think that's correct at all. I think that most Republicans see President Trump as a vehicle for their policy preferences, but that doesn't necessarily...
Now, that's actually true. That is a lot of how politics works. That's why the evangelical Christians sided with Trump, because they knew if they gave him the vote, he would pay it back by pushing today. This is obviously 6 years later. This is 6 years ago, but that's kind of what Trump does. You give him your vote, and he'll push your agenda.
Necessarily mean that they agree with all of his personal foibles or the way that he behaves or the things that he says. And I think a lot of Republicans respond in anger to the media attacking President Trump mainly out of a reactionary and half-appropriate upset that the media seem to have a double standard when it comes to covering certain politicians.
I'm interested in...
What double standard? Point out the double standard. One guy acts like a scumbag and another person doesn't act like a scumbag. Are we supposed to point out the person who's not a scumbag is a scumbag somehow? Where's the double standard here? Give me an example of this double standard. I don't see this double standard here. Again, word judo tactic. Make blanket accusations that don't actually mean anything, but they sound good.
You think there's a thought movement inside the Republican Party? I mean, haven't the conservatives run out of ideas in America? All the new policies, the Medicare for all, $15 minimum wage, the Green New Deal, they're all...
Now watch what he's going to do here. All the new policies, okay? Not new ideas, new policies. And they are new policies because they keep failing. So they never become law. They never become practice. So they keep reintroducing them. They keep trying to reintroduce them because they're new policies, because they never pass. So Ben Shapiro is going to use word judo to twist this, and instead of new policies, new ideas. And that somehow makes them invalid, that somehow makes them not count. That's the metaphor he's trying to push forth here. Watch.
Coming from the left. And they're popular.
Well, frankly, I'm confused by the idea that any of those are particularly new ideas.
He didn't say anything about new ideas. He said nothing about new ideas. See again, he did that there? He made it as if he was replying to a quote by the interviewer, and the interviewer missed it. The BBC guy missed this. I guess he's not used to this kind of logical attack or illogical attack that Ben Shapiro practices. He changed his words. Actually, this is what you call, I believe it's called a strawman argument. Let me look that up. Make sure I'm not using the wrong word. Strawman argument. Come on. Strawman argument. Yes. A strawman argument is a logical fallacy that occurs when someone misrepresents or distorts another person's position to make it easier to attack. That's exactly what Ben Shapiro just did. He distorted his argument from new policy, which these things are, to new ideas, because they've been pushing for these ideas for a long time, since Wilson and Woodrow and Roosevelt or whatever. So he's distorted the arguments, and now what he's attacking, what he's refuting, has nothing to do with what the reporter said. He's fabricated this brand new idea, and he's attacking his own creation, but he's presenting it as if he's rebuttaling against the reporter, and he's not, because he's using a straw man argument.
I mean, most of those ideas have been around since Franklin Delano Roosevelt at the very earliest, or at the very latest, rather. Some of them go all the way back to Woodrow Wilson. But the idea that new ideas are absent in the Republican Party is obviously untrue. We have
They are absent. There are no new ideas in the Republican Party. I haven't seen... Let me know if you've seen one. I've seen different variations of the same concept over and over again. I could be wrong on this, but I haven't seen any new ideas. And, key point here, he doesn't mention any. I mean, if the Republican Party is the party of new ideas, I mean, the first thing that would come to my mind is to quote one, mention one. He doesn't.
A very strong debate that goes on inside sort of the conservative halls of intelligentsia about what is the appropriate action to take with regard to the medical system. Should global warming be considered a real threat, or should global warming be considered something that technology will solve? And if so...
You see what he did there? This is where he slaps you in the face, and then, but he does it in a way that sounds reasonable if you don't catch the slap in the face. Is it a real threat? The implication is it's a fantasy. It's a fiction. It's not a real threat. But he doesn't want to be an anti-science label, So he doesn't say it's a bunch of crock, that it's a bunch of, hooey. He says the opposite implication of it. He said, is it a real threat? Is it something technology can fix? He's trying to present himself as reasonable, as a rational person, while everybody who understands what he's saying, he just bitch slapped them across the face. He just said, you're a bunch of, anti-science wackos. There is no such thing as global warming. There is no such thing as climate change crap. He said that without using those words. This is word judo. That's why he specifically worded it like that. Because, of course, if I say, yes, this is how it works, you're going to be thinking, no, that's not how it works. Well, that makes you the negative. You see what I mean? And that's what he did. He's saying that this stuff is hooey without saying this stuff is hooey. So he sounds reasonable while slapping you across the face.
What are the best
aspects
of solving that? No, should global warming be considered a real threat, or should global warming be considered something that technology will solve? And if so, what are the best aspects of solving that? No, there's a rich intellectual debate on the right about nationalism versus patriotism, for example, or populism.
Is this his idea of something new? I mean, this goes back to Hitler. This goes back to Genghis Khan. This goes back to Joseph Stalin. This goes back to every dictator in history. Nationalism and patriotism. There's so much for new ideas.
Versus free marketeerism. That debate is happening on the right to sort of suggest that the right in America is bereft of ideas, but the left is full of ideas.
They are bereft of ideas. He has yet to list one. I mean, here we are, 4 minutes in, and he still hasn't listed one of these new ideas. One of these supposed new ideas still hasn't been listed. I mean, you would think that would be an obvious thing to do. I mean, if I'm making this statement that the left isn't the only one coming up with new ideas, that's old ideas. That's not new ideas, even though he said new policies. He's put the straw man argument out there that we're not talking about new policies, we're talking about new ideas. And now he's proposing that the right does have new ideas, but in 4 minutes, or 3 minutes to be more correct, he has yet to list one, not one.
Number one, not all ideas are good ideas. I mean, AOC is pretty good evidence of that.
And here again, he does his bitch slap across the face. He insults you. He slurs you while pretending to be reasonable. Not all ideas are good ideas. Well, which ideas are bad ideas? Look at AOC, for example. You see what I mean? He's setting the tone that, well, your left ideas are bad ideas. Okay? Without actually saying the left has bad ideas. So he's presenting himself as rational and reasonable, but when you read through the word judo, you realize he just gut punched him. He just did it with words in a way that you can't say, well, you just gut punched me. Yes, he did. He just did it with fluffy words. He did it with a logical fallacy. That's what he does. That's word judo.
I'm a big fan of some old ideas myself that I think are pretty good,
But again, we're not talking about old ideas and new ideas. We're talking about new policies. He still hasn't answered that question. He still hasn't answered a single new policy. He still hasn't answered why these aren't new policies, not old ideas, not new ideas. That's not what the interviewer asked. We're 4.5 minutes in, and he still hasn't addressed that. He still has completely ignored every single question the guy's asked. He's strawmanned argument and changed every single question he's been asked so far, and he's answered something else that wasn't asked. That's why the interviewer is getting frustrated, because he realized that he keeps just beating around the bush, moving the goalposts, and not actually answering his questions. And Shapiro just gets angry and starts attacking him as if he's the one who is being targeting, and not Shapiro in his answers. That's what he does. That's his modus operandi. That's how he functions.
Beyond that, I think that it is intellectual sneering of the highest order to suggest that only the left has new and decent ideas.
But no one has suggested that. No one has suggested that. Again, he's continuing to tramp down that straw man argument. And anybody watching this interview is going to forget that the interviewer said new policies, not new ideas. But anybody watching this interview is going to think the whole interview is about left and right new ideas, even though that wasn't even the question asked. Word judo.
Some of the ideas that are popular in your side of politics would seem to take us back to the Dark Ages.
He said some of the ideas on your side of the politics would seem to take us back to the Dark Ages. Remember that. Remember how he worded that. Now watch how Ben Shapiro inserts his straw man argument, distorts the question that he was asked, and I believe the interviewer actually catches him on this, but he doesn't stop him. He distorts the idea and answers his straw man argument instead of answering the interviewer's argument.
Georgia, new abortion laws, which you...
So he's not saying the new abortion laws take us back to the Dark Ages. He's saying specific parts of the new abortion laws take us back to the Dark Ages. And he even gives specific examples, which Ben Shapiro completely ignores as if those words never came out of his mouth. Look at his smile. He already knows what he's going to say. He already has his argument in place. He already knows he's going to straw man argument logical fallacy this issue, and he's going to redirect the conversation to what he wants to talk about, which is reasonable. Slightly, it could conceivably be reasonable. Okay? He's going to redirect the argument. He's going to use a straw man argument again.
Are much in favor of, that a woman who miscarries could get 30 years. A Georgian woman who travels to another state for an abortion procedure could get 10 years.
That's the Dark Ages. That's what he's saying. That's the ideas that are in these laws. It's not the laws that are Dark Ages. It's the ideas that are in these laws. Because a lot of these laws start off with reasonable wording. You know, trying to define when a baby is, you know, somewhat self-aware, and when, you know, they try to make it sound reasonable and sensible, but then they slip in all these Dark Ages ideas into those laws, all these conditions and requirements. And those are what make these laws bad, not the concept of the law in general. And that's exactly what the good reporter, he didn't just blanket the laws, he actually listed 2 specific examples of what he considers to be Dark Ages. And Ben Shapiro completely ignores it as if the man never spoke those words. Word judo.
These are extreme hard policies.
Well, okay, a couple of things. One, I'm not sure. I mean, frankly, I don't know whether are you an objective journalist or are you an opinion?
Now, ad hominem attack. That's a classic logical fallacy. An ad hominem attack is when you attack the person and their position rather than the actual subject of the discussion. So when you don't like something that somebody has said, or you need time, or you want to push them off their feet to unbalance them, instead you attack them. You attack the person. You don't address the argument. You don't address the subject. You don't address the issue. You attack the person and their credibility directly. And that's exactly what he's doing when he insinuates that he's not objective.
Opinion journalist.
I'm a journalist that asks questions.
Okay, so you're in
And now he's going to twist what he said again.
You're a supposedly objective journalist calling policies with which you disagree barbaric and suggesting only one side of the political aisle has ideas. So I just want...
See? He's reiterating all of his straw man arguments after he attacks his credibility and his standing with an ad hominem attack. He didn't say any of those things. These are all ideas that came from Ben Shapiro. The gentleman in the studio in the BBC didn't say any of this. None of this came out of his mouth. These are all ideas that Ben Shapiro invented on the spot when he created his straw man arguments, and then he's initiating at this point, Ben Shapiro is realizing he can't bamboozle this guy, that he can't just, talk through him and get away with it. So he's beginning his attack run. He's beginning to assert his ad hominem attacks and continuing with the word judo and his straw man arguments to reiterate them, to strengthen them, so that people watching this will think those ideas were the point of this discussion, which would make him sound unreasonable. But he didn't say any of that. Go back and play it again. I'm not cutting out any of this interview. Go to the Confused Brits YouTube channel. Play it there if you think I edited this. None of this is edited. This is what Ben Shapiro does.
To point out that, I wish you would at least be honest in your own biases.
Mr. Shapiro,
are you a member of the...
See? Honest in your own biases. He's attacking his credibility. He's attacking the person instead of addressing the argument. Because he can't address the argument. Because he knows putting someone in jail, in prison for 30 years for a miscarriage, or charging somebody with a felony, because anything over a year is a felony, for going to another state to get a legal process done, is barbaric. It's Dark Ages. It's unreasonable. So instead of addressing those issues, He just ignores them completely, invents these brand new issues that don't exist, and then attacks him. And now he's getting upset because he realizes, shit, I can't bamboozle this guy so easily. And now he's going to get to the point where he starts talking over him. He won't let him get a word in edgewise. He's trying to make him sound unreasonable. He's trying to set the precedent. He's trying to set the public opinion in our minds that the ideas he's talking about are the point of this interview, that he's defending himself from this attack by this biased, left-wing extremist individual, even though none of that's true. This is what Ben Shapiro does.
In America is now so polarized that on one program you only have the left, and another one you just have the right. My job is to question those who have strong views and put an alternative to them. If you were an anti-abortion...
You see how you won't let him talk? Shut the fuck up and let him talk. He's still actively speaking. Shut the fuck up. But he doesn't want to, because he wants to control the narrative. He doesn't want him to finish those sentences, because he knows those sentences are going to be damning. So he's trying to control the narrative. He's trying to override him.
In person, I would be putting pro-abortion questions to you, but you are
really. Would you call the pro?
And now he's going to try to switch it. He's trying to control the narrative. He's trying to apply a straw man argument.
So why don't you just answer my question,
sir?
And he still won't answer the question. Still won't answer the question. And look what he's doing now. Okay, this is another classic tactic. Sir, being respectful. Hand up. Shut the fuck up. That's his polite way of saying shut the fuck up, because he's saying, sir, we're not going to interpret this. Now, imagine I walk up to you and we're having a discussion and I do this to you while I'm discussing something with you. I'd be surprised if you don't want to slug me in the gut, okay? And yet he gets away with this. He's sending the shut the fuck up, you idiot sign to the guy, and he's getting away with it by sounding reasonable, by saying, sir, this is how he works.
Sir, I'm happy to answer your question. Please answer this one. Would you suggest?
And yet he'll never answer the question. I'm happy to answer the question. He sounds reasonable. But he won't. He won't answer the question. He'll apply a straw man argument. He'll ask his own question that the interviewer never asked, and then he'll apply an answer to the question he asked, which he has prepared.
That a late-term abortion is brutal.
Duh? You're killing something. That's like saying, is the sky blue? Duh. Is murder brutal? Duh. Is death sad? Duh. Does starvation look bad? Duh. Is drowning horrible? Yes. Duh. Okay. So again, that's not what he asked. He didn't ask if something else was brutal. He's ignoring the question, applying a straw man argument, and he's creating a different question that the reporter didn't ask. But he sounds reasonable to a person who's not educated on this kind of stuff and how this stuff works. And everybody forgets the fact that he never answered the question the reporter asked.
I'm not taking a view on this issue. I'm asking you the questions.
Sir, you just...
I'm not taking a view on these issues. I'm asking you a question. The reporter's starting to catch on to the fact that he's not answering questions. He's creating straw man arguments and ad hominem attacks, and he's avoiding answering my questions. And then he's blathering on about his straw man arguments and his distortions to make it seem like he's the reasonable one and that he's the unreasonable one.
Suggested the pro-life position is inherently brutal and terrible, so I'm asking you, as an objective journalist, would you ask this?
And no, he never said that. He never said the pro-life position was objectively brutal and terrible. He never said that. The reporter never once ever said anything to even insinuate that. He said some of the ideas in some of these abortion laws are brutal and dark ages type, and he proceeds to list specific examples. Unlike Shapiro, he doesn't list a generalized statement of something being brutal or wrong or old ideas. He makes a logical, rational statement. Some of these ideas within these new abortion laws, such as Georgia, are sending us back to dark ages kind of stuff. And he then proceeds to list specific examples, which Shapiro completely ignores as if the man never said those words. We are now 6 minutes in, and he still hasn't answered a single question this man has asked. Not one question. Go back through the last 6 minutes, and you find me one time where Shapiro has actually answered a single question this man has asked. Not one. Every single answer Shapiro has given has been answers to his own straw man argument questions that the reporter never asked.
Same question to a pro-choice advocate by calling their position brutal and
What I'm
horrible.
asking you is...
They're not calling your position brutal. They're calling putting somebody in prison for 30 years for having a miscarriage brutal. They're calling putting somebody in prison for going to another state where abortion is legal and getting an abortion and then putting them in prison for 10 years when they come back. That's what he's calling brutal. He listed those specific examples. He never once said that the generalized policy was brutal. Shapiro said that. Shapiro put those words in his mouth and then responded to them. That's called a straw man argument. That's called an ad hominem attack.
Why is it that a bill banning abortions after a woman has been pregnant for 6 weeks is not a return to the Dark Ages? What's your answer?
My answer is something called science. Human life exists at conception.
Again, not answering the question. Not answering the question.
It ought to be protected. Now, back to my question.
He's saying it shouldn't be protected. He's not Shapiro. Shapiro is saying that the reporter is saying that the baby should not be protected, when that's not what he said. That's absolutely not what he said.
You purport to be an objective journalist. BBC.
Again, ad hominem attack. He's challenging his credibility. He's challenging his character instead of answering the questions. He's slapping this interviewer in the face because now he's mad at him because he's not kowtowing to his tactics.
Purports to be an objective down-the-middle network. It obviously is not. It never happened.
Again, attack. Still hasn't answered the question. 6.5 minutes in.
Has been, and you as a journalist are proceeding to call one side of the political aisle ignorant, barbaric, and sending us back.
He never said the word ignorant. He did say barbaric and sending us back to the Dark Ages, but not about one political party. He never, ever accused the political party of being barbaric or sending us back to the Dark Ages. He called specific policies within these bills to be barbaric and return to the Dark Ages. Again, straw man argument, distorting what the guy said, replacing his argument with his own fictional argument that doesn't exist, and then rationally attacking that argument as if that's what the reporter said. He has still failed to answer one single question this man has asked.
To the Dark Ages, why don't you just say that you're on the left? Is this so hard for you? Why can't you just be honest?
Because this is the weird part, actually. Because Shapiro thinks on the left equals bad. From his perspective, if you're on the left, you're bad. But here's the thing. He's not left. He's probably centrist, if not slightly right. Because this is what people don't seem to understand. The political spectrum we draw it as a line. So here's the right and here's the left. That might be inverted on your screen. I'm not sure. So here's the right, here's the left. Centrist is somebody who's in the middle. What is a centrist? A centrist is a person who says, okay, well, some of these ideas of the right are good, but some of it's bad. Some of these ideas on the left are good, and some of it's bad. So I'm going to take the good from the left and the good from the right, and I'm going to be in the center. That's what centrist means. Bernie Sanders is not a liberal. That's right, you heard me right. Bernie Sanders is not a liberal. He's only a liberal in the United States. To the rest of the sane, rational, reasonable world, not the psychosis that exists in this country, to the rest of the world, Bernie Sanders is just slightly right of center. He's slightly conservative. So what has happened is the entire population of the country, the political spectrum doesn't change. The political spectrum is fixed. This is centrist, this is left, this is right. This is immutable. This is like neutron matter. It never changes. What changes is where you reside on this spectrum. And in the United States, at least politically, most of the political components of our country, the entire political system has shifted right. So now people who were on the left, they're center or slightly right. And the people who are right are extremist wacko right. There's hardly anybody left on the left, politically speaking. And citizen-wise, we have liberals. But politically, there's no liberals left. Closest you're going to get is somebody like Yang. He would be slightly left of center. Not left wing, he'd be slightly left of center. Because our political spectrum has determined that actual left ideas are toxic. It's not the spectrum that shifted. It's the people who have shifted on that spectrum. The spectrum remains fixed. And so he's accusing, he thinks left is bad, left is evil, left is crooked. And so to discredit the interviewer, he's calling him left. This is an attack.
Mr.
Seriously,
Shapiro,
it's a serious question.
Mr. Shapiro, if you only knew how ridiculous that statement is, you wouldn't have said it. So let's move on. Would you?
Now, this is where the reporter made a mistake. British viewers are going to understand this, but Shapiro viewers are not, because his statement is absolutely ridiculous. But this is the first failing I've seen of the reporter here, and his lack of understanding of just how twisted American politics are. He doesn't understand that America doesn't have a left. There are no liberals in America. Remember, I'm speaking politically, not the citizens. Okay, I'm speaking the people in charge, people running the country. For the most part, there are no liberals left. Everybody's right. It's just how extreme right or how close to center are they? And that's what people don't seem to realize. I mean, Pelosi is conservative. Bernie Sanders is slightly conservative, centrist. But he's centrist, but he leans conservative to the rest of the world. So to the rest of the world, they realize how ridiculous that statement was. But to Shapiro's viewers, that statement goes right over their head. They don't understand it.
I think it's pretty evident from your own questions exactly what you are,
Trump?
Oh, yes, the questions that in 7 minutes you still have not answered. Not one single question. Oh, wait a minute. You're talking about the questions that you invented that never came out of the reporter's mouth. You're talking about your strawman arguments that you put in his mouth and then answered. Well, yeah, of course. You invented those questions, so of course they're unreasonable. You designed them to be unreasonable.
Would you vote for Mr. Trump in 2020?
I'd certainly consider voting for Mr. Trump in 2020, just like I'd consider voting for anybody else in 2020.
But didn't you...
Again, trying to make himself reasonable, not allowing himself to be pinned down. Okay, he's trying to make it seem like he's open and rational.
say that you'd never vote for him?
I said that I wouldn't vote for him in 2016. And then I wrote a column for National Review explaining the conditions under which I might change my mind.
You're
You see, he changed the question. I would never vote for Mr. Trump, period. And now he's changing the question. Oh, I would never vote for him in 2016. Word judo. It's just more word judo.
a culture war warrior. Isn't he largely on your side? You wrote once it was unlikely he'd appoint conservative judges to the Supreme Court. He has.
Right.
So you were wrong.
And so I like many of President Trump's policies, even if I still have serious reservations about his personality and character.
Do you think there's a Democrat that could beat him in 2020?
Sure, I think there are several Democrats who could beat him in 2020.
Who would have the best chance?
I think that Joe Biden is likeliest to beat him, considering that he has significant appeal in a lot of the Rust Belt, in places like Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, the places that President Trump needs to win to retain the presidency. And Joe Biden also has a long history in politics, which means that the American people already have sort of a preconceived vision of him. President Trump, as a campaigner, is very good at dragging unknowns through the mud, or at exposing details about people that are previously sort of covered up. But when it comes to Joe Biden, he's been well exposed for a very long time. Most people know him, and he's not nearly as unpopular even going in as Hillary Clinton was in 2016.
So if it was...
Now, here's another twisted bit of word judo. Did you notice what he just did for the last 30 seconds? First of all, in 8 minutes, this is the first time he's actually answered a question from the reporter. The first question he's answered. And he lied. Trust me, he's lying. That question was prepared. He had an answer prepared for that. Now, I don't mean the reporter prepared. I mean Ben Shapiro has prepared an answer to such questions. His answer was largely a non-answer. You notice how non-committal he was about most of the things he was saying. He was just saying the things that are in the general mind. Even though he knew with the mud campaign, the Republicans have been slinging at Biden for his entire term, that there was basically no chance Biden was going to win. I was actually surprised how close the election was, less than 1 million votes difference. I was actually really surprised how close it was. I actually thought it would be a landslide, but it's because 36% of the population, more than voted for either Trump or Biden, didn't vote at all. People had just given up. They're like, this is a mess, we don't care. And the result was we got Trump again. Anyway, that his answer wasn't designed to give you any information. You notice he didn't give you anything solid. He didn't give you actually any information about himself. He gave largely non-committal generic answers here. but he did actually answer the question. The only reason he answered the question was because it furthered his own agenda. And his agenda was to make himself seem reasonable, to make himself seem not biased, to make himself seem balanced. And that's why he gave this largely non-committal answer that's no threat to him.
It was a close race between Mr. Biden and Mr. Trump. You would, from what you say, I think, probably go for Mr. Trump.
Yes, I would vote for Mr. Trump if it were a race between Biden and Trump, because I think that the damage that President Trump has done to the country on a character and rhetorical level has already been done and cannot be undone. I don't see it as getting worse day by day. That is the new...
Oh boy, are you about to find out how wrong you are, buddy.
status quo, unfortunately. Now the question becomes which policies I would most like to see enacted, and Trump's policy preferences are closer to my own than Joe Biden's are.
Now, you're a star of new media, of conservative new media. You and others on the left and the right, you position yourselves as supposed
I'm sorry, I had that partially wrong. Trump basically had no chance after all the damage he did. Biden won pretty strongly. I keep forgetting this is 2020. So this is that mid-year where Trump president, Biden president, then Trump president again. This is not 2024. This is 2019. So this is leading up to the 2020 election. So yeah, Trump basically had no chance. So he wasn't really adding anything to the conversation by admitting that.
Because of hard truths. But haven't you all just really coarsened public discourse in America? And
this is what you guys will hear me call hyperpolarization. It's where we hyperpolarize the population of the country to make all of the citizens extremists. Where you're a hardcore Republican or a hardcore Democrat, doesn't matter who's running, you're just pulling that lever. And that's what he means by coarsened, that we're polarizing the country. And what I say, we're hyperpolarizing. But that's what he means by coarsened public discourse.
Exacerbated its divisions?
You know, it's kind of odd to be hearing about me coarsening public discourse when you call policies you disagree with brutal and bringing us back.
Well, at least he admitted he said policies and not new ideas. Except he attributed those policies to the entire party instead of to specific parts of laws. And again, this is an ad hominem attack. This is a straw man argument. Well, this is not quite a straw man argument, but it's based on his original straw man argument. But this is where he turns the question around and attacks him instead of actually answering the question.
Back to the Dark Ages, sir.
The point, I don't want to return to, but the point was to put a position.
See, even he's a little bamboozled. He's trying to figure, he's an older man, so maybe he's getting a little old to not have a fresh enough mind to be able to keep up with his younger mind from Shapiro. But he's trying to, you can see it on his face, he's trying to figure out all these logical circles and noise that Shapiro has added to the discussion to the point where even he's confused. And that's Shapiro's objective. That's why he's got the little smile on his face. See that little smile? See that little uptick right there? He's like, yeah, I bamboozled this old guy.
For you to reply to it.
See?
And I thought we covered that.
His smile's gone? Yeah. He was smiling because he had bamboozled him. He had confused him. This guy's trying to sort the noise from the flack, and Shapiro was smiling because he'd done it. Watch this again.
Well, put a position for you to reply to
watch it go away when he
and I thought we covered that.
See?
Well, I put some of the points too, because on your
characterization of issues is part of the problem in the coarsening of...
He's not characterizing issues. Ben Shapiro installed a straw man argument that said he was characterizing issues. He never characterized issues. He characterized specific, brutal, horrible portions of abortion laws. Not the political stance, not the positions of the Republicans or the Democrats, but two very specific listed portions of those laws that are out of control. He's the one who brought in issues of politics, not him.
Public debate.
Well, maybe it's also part of your problem too, because we have...
This is where he realizes I'm being bamboozled by this guy and I can't keep track of all his bullshit and all of his lies. And he's starting to attack back. And that's when you'll see Shapiro start to get upset. And he eventually bows out because he just, he can't win. He realizes that he can't continue bamboozling, so he bails. And that's his modus operandi. That's what he does. But he realizes, yeah, this guy's an asshole. This guy is mentally fucked. There's something wrong with this guy's head. And the problem is he's an expert at it. It's called word judo.
From your YouTube videos, Ben Shapiro destroys the abortion argument. Ben Shapiro destroys transgenderism and abortion. Is that not a kind of coarse public discourse?
Well, are those videos labeled by me?
Did you counter them? Did you post an update saying that's not what I believe? No.
I have no idea.
Why are you picking out? Why are you? I have a question. Why are you picking out random YouTube videos put up by people who are not me?
Are you
and then attributing the titles to me?
Are you unhappy with the way they've been described?
See, he tries to, and then he beats around the bush again.
I think that people can describe me however they please. It's a free country, and I'm all in favor of.
He avoided answering the question. He didn't ask, do you think they have a right to do that? He didn't ask, do you support their right to do that? He said, are you unhappy about it? Basically, he was saying, do you agree with what they were saying? And he avoids answering the question.
Of a public debate, if you watch the actual clips, they are generally civil conversations between me and somebody who disagrees with me.
You never have reasonable conversations. Ever. I've never once seen him have a reasonable conversation with somebody he disagreed with. What he has is bastardized word judo, twisted, distorted, strawman, ad hominem, vicious, nasty attacks on the personality, credibility, and character of the person he's talking with, basically calling them idiots without using the word idiot. It's like when I tell somebody, you're not intellectually equipped to participate in this discussion. That's a polite way of saying, you're a fucking moron, you're an idiot. Okay? That's what he does. And to him, it's if you don't realize what he's doing, it sounds reasonable. If I tell somebody, if you see me reply to somebody in a forum, this is kind of overt. My example is not as subtle as Shapiro's tactics, mostly because if you use certain words, forums will automatically scrub you if someone reports you for harassment and bullying. So if you call someone stupid and someone reports it for harassment or bullying, the auto system will automatically moderate your question because you use the word stupid. It's considered a direct attack. So if I reply to somebody, you're not intellectually equipped to effectively participate in this discussion. That sounds reasonable. It sounds like I'm being polite and reasonable and having a rational argument with somebody. But if you understand what I just said, and you understand the context of what I just said, you understand I just did this and shoved it up their nose and gave it a twist. Okay? And that's what he's doing.
Say in your new book,
he calls that reasonable.
You suggest that America's largest struggle at the moment is, quote, the struggle for our national soul. We are so angry at each other right now. And I think that's true. I've just returned from the United States. But aren't you part of the problem with the way you go about your discourse, not the solution?
I think we can all do better in our discourse, but the fact that I've reached out to so many people across...
See? Didn't answer the question. He didn't answer the question.
...the aisle to have conversations with them is pretty evident. The fact that I was willing to walk from a publication that was paying me money...
over nothing that had to do with the question he asked.
Over principle.
Again, he's bringing up his own strawman arguments that are designed to make him look rational, reasonable, and good, even though it has nothing to do with any question the reporter ever asked. The reporter never even so much as inquired as to why he left Breitbart, or whatever that was.
Is pretty evident. The fact that I've called out President Trump, a member of a party of which I am a member, repeatedly when I think that he has done things that are immoral, I think is decent evidence that I'm looking at least for a civil conversation.
Well, as you're saying...
No, you're looking to set a track record that you're reasonable and balanced so that when you attack people, you can use that, like you just did, as a defense of your own character.
In your book, you say that there's quite a key phrase, we are so angry at each other right now. But as I say, aren't you part of that anger? Aren't you...
He asks the question again. Let's see if he answers it.
Encouraging that anger. For example, you described Mr. Obama's State of the Union address in 2012 as fascist mentality in action.
Well,
And he doesn't answer the question. Listen to what he does. He redirects.
I think that if you want to argue with the characterization, then we can talk about what exactly...
He doesn't want to argue with the characterization. It's your fucking quote. He's asking you about your own goddamn words. And he's saying, oh, if you want to argue about the characterization, no, I'm asking you about your own freaking words. He doesn't answer the question. He twists and distorts.
His State of the Union address said. Is it charged language in politics? Sure. The problem that I have is not with charged language in politics, which I'm generally in favor of. I like a robust public debate and a very loud and spirited public debate. I have no problem with that whatsoever. What I'm talking about is the assumption that people with whom we disagree politically are inherently of bad character.
And yet he never said that. The reporter never said that. He never implied that. He never suggested that. He never insinuated that. He asked specific questions about very specific things, which Ben Shapiro 100% ignored. 100% ignored. And did not answer, and still has not answered in this entire interview. What he's answering is exactly what he's answering. He's answering his own made-up straw man arguments. And he's answering those. But those never came from the reporter. Those came from Ben. It's like he's having an interview with himself. That's what he does. He creates a situation where he has an interview with himself, but he makes his ulterior self seem like it's you.
Or, in your words, want to bring us back to the Dark Ages.
But again,
that's not what he said. They want to bring us back to the Dark Ages. That's not what he said. He said the policy of putting a person in prison for 30 years for having a miscarriage is Dark Ages. He said putting a person who goes to another state to get a legal operation in that state for 10 years is a return to the Dark Ages. That's what he said. But Shapiro's not responding to what he said. He's responding to his own straw man arguments that he put in the reporter's mouth. And that's what he's replying to.
and it was your description of the State of the Union address in 2012 as fascist.
The wording of President Trump's 2012 address was bad and wrong.
That's all. There are plenty of things.
Bad and wrong. He said fascist. He said fascist. He didn't say bad and wrong. He said fascist. And those were your words.
They're bad and wrong, but it doesn't make them fascist.
He calls them out on it, and I believe this is where he starts to lose it.
Well, I suppose that's true, but if you would like to, again, if you'd like to read me the column out loud, I suppose I can critique it for you.
Oh, well, again, with Mr. Obama, you said, you're Jewish yourself. I only mention that because, to put this in context, the Jews who vote for Obama are, by and large, Jews in name only. Ginos, you call them.
My statement was based on the fact that Jews in the United States, as an ethnic group, are largely irreligious, which is true by...
So, again, straw man argument. He says, well, if you quote me what I said, I'll say something. I'll respond to it. So he did. This reporter was prepared. He presented another quote from the same thing, and now he's moving the goalposts. He's shifting it from talking about Obama and Israel to talking about American Jewish people, which is not what he was saying. And the reporter's going to call him out on this.
Every single poll, Jews are the most irreligious group in the United States. As an Orthodox Jew who actually takes Judaism seriously, the point that I am making is that most Jews who are ethnically Jewish are not religiously Jewish in any context.
No. The point you were making is that Jews who vote for Obama are Jews in name only.
I said that, yes, that is correct, that Jews who voted for Barack Obama, a progenitor of the Iran deal, a person who was cracking down on religious liberty, a person who spent much of his career as president of the United States attempting to deprive Israel of the necessities to defend itself.
Obama didn't try to deprive anybody of religious freedom, liberty. He tried to deprive Israel. By not sucking Israel's dick, he interprets that to be not... of depriving them of religious liberty. That's what he just said, using different words. Again, he's not answering his question. He's twisting it and distorting it and answering a different question.
That people, Jews who voted for President Obama...
And he's starting to get flustered because the reporter's actually on the ball and he's making some pretty concise quotes. And so Shapiro has to ad-lib. He has to come up with these responses and these twists. That's part of why his logic is starting to break down, because he has to get through his own twisted, cesspool and sewage of logic and reason that he uses, and he has to do it on the fly. That's why he's getting flustered right now.
By and large, cared about Judaism far less than they did.
And that's why he's not smiling anymore. He's losing control of the conversation, and he doesn't like that.
About other priorities.
Did you say they should turn their badge in?
See? No smile. See how he's not smiling anymore?
As a Jew.
Yes, I believe that if you are somebody who takes Judaism seriously, that comes along with ideological commitment.
I mean, I guess.
Also, I hope you're having fun by the.
This is now. This is where he tries to redirect. He realizes this guy's going down a train. He's going down a rail that I can't control. This is where he's going to redirect and go on the attack. He's going to, again, ad hominem attack, logical fallacy. He's going to attack his character. He's going to attack his credibility.
Way going through every old tweet that I've ever sent to try and do gotcha questions, but if you'd like to have a discussion.
It's called a track record, Ben. It's called a track record. Didn't you just do exactly that same thing when you used a straw man argument to say these new policies that they're trying to push, and you change the word to new ideas, even though he never said new ideas, and then you bring up Woodrow Wilson and Roosevelt and stuff like that? You're bringing back stuff that's 60, 70 years old. And he can't bring back stuff that's 9 years old, 8 years old, 7 years old? Yeah, 7 years. So 7 years ago is off limit, but 60 years is okay. Uh-huh. Do you see the bullshit? Do you see the bullshit?
Discussion about my general philosophy or things I've done in, say, I don't know, that was 2012, so it's now 2019. If you'd like to discuss something I've done in, say, like the past 5 years, why don't we do that? How about that?
Because your book is a criticism of how angry America is and how America has to do better. And I'm simply
I have an
trying to
entire
point
list
out,
on my website, sir. On my list, I have an entire website of dumb,
I'm
bad
simply
things
trying
that
to
I've
point
said.
out some of the things you've said that.
Talking over him. He's realized he said a lot of bullshit over the time, so he has to retcon it. So he makes a list on his website to retcon and explain away some of the things he said. And he's talking over the guy because he realizes he's losing control of the conversation. That's why he's getting more aggressive. That's why he's stuttering more. That's why he's not smiling anymore, because he realizes this guy's catching on and he's tired of his bullshit.
Seemed to me to help to stoke that anger. For example, you said
Sure.
Israelis like to build. Arabs like to bomb crap and live in open sewage.
Well, as I say in an article entitled, here's a list of all the giant, bad, dumb things I've ever said.
Was that dumb?
Well, yes, that's a dumb tweet. And not only, but it is also important to mention that the next few tweets clarify that that tweet is specifically referring to the Hamas leadership, which, by the way,
he tries to retcon it to be Hamas, but the reporter's on the ball, and the reporter mentions those future tweets, and he gets more upset.
BBC, I've seen, is relatively reticent to condemn.
No, actually, it wasn't what you went on to do and say. You are correct about the slur on Arabs. It's not all Arabs that want to live in open sewage and blow things up. It's just Palestinians.
Yes, eh? And he is not happy because this guy did his homework. He's not some fucking noob on Fox News. He knows what he's doing.
To say.
No, it says the ones who take sides against Israel in the Israel-Palestinian
population is rotten to the core, you went on to say. Not Hamas, the Palestinian Arab population.
I say that...
And he's going to keep trying to retcon it. He's going to keep trying to pretend he said something else. This guy's got him, and he does not like it.
By poll numbers, they elected Hamas. They elected Hamas. They educate their children in school that Israel should be obliterated, sir.
So he's trying to insinuate that because they elected Hamas, they probably didn't have much of a choice. I have no idea. I don't know much about Israeli politics. But he's trying to insinuate that because they tried to elect the Hamas, that my statement somehow was only directed at Hamas. Even though he specifically said Israeli Palestinians. Yeah. Yeah. He's stuck in his own, shit pile. What do you call it? Pig pen. He made his own little mud pen, and now he's got to live in it. He's trying to retcon and bullshit his way around it.
I guess
if you want to read, honestly, this is a giant waste of time.
This is where he loses it. He's tired of it. He realizes he can't bullshit this guy. That this guy keeps calling him out. That this guy knows what he's saying. That this guy has all the quotes ready from him. And this is classic Shapiro. He's going to bail. He hung around a little bit longer because this was an actual broadcast interview. Normally, he would have bailed a whole lot sooner. But now he's going to bail. And he's going to try to make it as if it's his fault. Watch how much he attacks this guy as he attempts to bail out of this.
The sense that the entire interview is designed for you to shout slogans or old things that I've said at me. I don't see how this forwards the debate.
Except that's never what he did. He never, except for the one question regarding, what was that one question he answered because it benefited him? Um, the one politics question. Besides that one question, in 15 minutes, he's never answered a single question this reporter has asked. Not with the exception of that one question, which was a non-answer he gave, so I don't count it as an answer. It did address the question, but it was a non-answer. So besides that, almost answering his question, besides that, he's never answered one single question this reporter has asked. And yet, he's going to reply as if this was a witch hunt. That's what he's saying. He's saying this is a witch hunt designed to slur his name, to slander him. That's what he's implying. When in reality, it's all his own arguments that he inserted into the discussion that don't exist, that he created, that this reporter never said, and he's going to bail.
You talk about undermining the public discourse. It seems to me that simply going through and finding lone things that sound bad out of context and then hitting them with,
and then even though he gives you the context and you just reject the context and move on. Yeah, keep going. Keep digging that hole deeper, Shapiro.
And hitting people with them is a way for you to make a quick buck on BBC off the fact that I'm popular and no one has ever heard of you.
There are not many bucks to be made on the BBC, unlike American broadcasting, Mr. Shapiro. The point I'm trying to make is that your words are hardly...
Oh, wait, so him getting paid a living is him being paid off? That's the same thing now? See the connection he made? Yeah, he's just throwing out little... what do you call that when you slight somebody like that, when you throw out little daggers? He's throwing out his little daggers now because he's pissed. He's trying to bail. He's trying to ruffle him up and he's trying to make him kick him off. That's what he's trying to do. And when he realizes that he's not going to do it, that he's going to keep going and let this guy dig himself a deeper hole, he finally just gives up.
Designed to produce the consensus and understanding that the book seems to want to produce. That's my point, that you write about, Judeo-Christian culture and so on.
And now he's going to mew him? He's going to mew him right on live television. First of all, I think, actually, Shapiro's pretty young. How old is Shapiro? What generation is Ben Shapiro? Oh, he's a millennial, so I guess that kind of works. Okay. I guess it's kind of it's more of a Gen Z thing, but he's close enough, barely. But he's mewing him on live TV. Really? Really, dude? Oh, from his perspective, this is I don't hear you. Fuck you. That's what that is. That's the new fuck you that kids give to teachers and stuff like that. Yeah, that's mind-blowing.
But so much of what you've said in the past would seem to turn its back on Judeo-Christian culture.
Oh my God! To the cameraman! Yes! He gets what Shapiro is doing and he puts him on the big screen with his little mewing. Nice job, cameraman! You did good. You got your instructions and you knew what to do. Good job.
You're lecturing me on Judeo-Christian culture after you call the pro-life position barbaric?
And again, he's applying his logical distortion because he never called the pro-life position barbaric. Shapiro did. Shapiro is the only person who called the pro-life position barbaric by saying he did, when he didn't. He said that 30 years in prison for a miscarriage is barbaric. He said 10 years for going to another state to get a legal medical procedure is barbaric. That's what he said is barbaric. Shapiro's the one who said the pro-life position is barbaric.
I just asked you a question.
And I asked you a question. You failed to answer a single one of mine. Frankly, I find that...
He's the interviewer, you asshole! He's supposed to ask the questions, not you! Fucking duh! But he's used to being in control. That's how he can have a straight face and make that absolutely abysmally stupid statement. I go on Fox News or NBC or ABC or CBS. I'm not there to ask questions. They're there to interview me. They're going to ask the questions. He's the interviewer. He's going to ask the questions. You're supposed to answer the questions. He didn't answer a single one. Not one. In 15 minutes of interviewing, he gave one non-answer and 0 other answers. He didn't answer one single question the interviewer asked. Not one. Every single time the interviewer asked a question, he applied a straw man argument distorted or changed the question to his own question, and then he answered that, and then accused the interviewer of asking that, even though it was his own question, not the interviewer's question. He didn't answer one single question. The closest he came, what was it, 8 minutes in, or roughly 7.5, 8 minutes in, he gave a non-answer that at least didn't redirect to a complete fictional question.
This whole thing a waste of time. If you want to read the book and critique the book, why don't you read?
He did. He quoted you twice, and you redirected and rejected twice.
Read and critique the book. If you want to read, if you want to critique me, you can think whatever you want of me.
Why don't you
frankly,
just try and
I don't
answer
care.
the
I don't frankly give a.
Yeah, the interviewer's finally caught on. Why don't you just try to answer the questions? And he just talks right over him and just keeps talking. Because Shapiro's done at this point. He's quitting.
Damn, what you think of me since I've never heard of you.
And I've never heard of you until I briefed myself for this. But that's not the issue. You have a
Then
new
why the hell
book
are you
out,
interviewing
and
me,
it's an interesting book. But my point is, your book claims that
Well, it'd be nice if you would
society.
quote it from time to time.
Your
He did! Twice! And you got pissed when he did!
book is, well, actually, I've done so several times, and I'm about to do so again, if you would let me just finish the question. Your book
frankly, I don't
claims
think
that
this is- you know what?
society
Yeah, see? He quits! He quit! He did rage quit!
Honestly-
is turning
honestly,
its
sir-
back on Judeo-Christian values.
Yeah, this is
What are
considering
those values?
considering
What are the values it's turning its back on?
I'm not inclined to continue an interview with a person as badly motivated as you as an interviewer. So I think we're done here. I appreciate your time. Sir.
All right.
Thank you so
Well,
much.
thank you for your time and for showing that anger is not part of American political discourse. Now, Mr.
Oh! I missed that the first time. We're going to play that again. You hear that little dig the reporter got in? He turned Shapiro's tactics around and slung that dagger right back at him. Listen
Shapiro
to that.
will say.
As you as an interviewer. So I think we're done here. I appreciate your time. Sir.
All
Thank
right.
you so
Well,
much.
thank you for your time and for showing that anger is not part of American political discourse. Now, Mr. Shapiro will say goodbye.
Nicely done.
So guys, look, first one.
The rest is the Just a Confused Brit. Go to his channel if you want to watch this and hear his commentary. I don't want to copy his content, since you should go give him a view if you want to watch his content. So that's Just a Confused Brit. But there you go. There's a perfect example of the kind of word judo, ad hominem attacks, twisted, distorted discussions, and his expert ability to never answer a single question. In that entire 16 and a half, 17 minutes or whatever it was, what was it? It was 16 minutes and 30 seconds if we get rid of the first 30 seconds where he chimes in. So about 16 minutes, he doesn't answer one single question. And Shapiro thinks he's there to ask him questions. He thinks that's the point of this interview, for him to ask questions. This is what they do. This is how they operate. I mean, and the problem is, okay, first of all, anybody thinking about killing Shapiro, don't. Don't turn him into a martyr like they're doing with Charlie Kirk. And on top of that, it's just fucking wrong. No one deserves to die for this crap. I mean, I can't imagine his family that has to live with that. That's just, and the shooter's family that has to live with what their kid did. You got some weird, fucked up people out there, man. But, you know, Shapiro's not, he's not a, he's a scumbag. He's a low-life piece of shit. He's a twisted, demented, malicious, nasty, vicious person. Doesn't deserve to die. Okay? That's just wrong. Killing's wrong. But this is the kind of people that we have in charge now. This is the kind of people we have being influencers on the internet, being conservative influencers and spreading this kind of hatred and rhetoric. But they pretty it up and make it sound like you're the bad guy, to make it sound like you're the uneducated one, to make it sound like you're the idiot. And they use word judo. That's what I'm calling it, word judo. And they only pick people to talk to, typically, who are unarmed, and they don't know they need to be armed. It's like walking into the Coliseum to walk into the arena and you're going up against a gladiator who's got his little short sword and shield, and you've got nothing but your slippers and your t-shirt, and you have no idea you're about to go into combat because you can't see the guy's sword and you can't see his armor, but he's got him. And he's about to slice and dice you, and you have no idea. That's the kind of people Shapiro goes after. Just look at his interviews. He always picks the people who he can logically bamboozle. It's not really logic. He's using logical tactics, but logic doesn't have a good or bad. There's no good logic and bad logic. There's no evil or bad or good logic. That's not a thing. What is the opposite of evil? It's good and evil. So what's the opposite of bad? Okay? I always wondered about that. But he's an evil person, and he is evil. I don't define him as a bad person, because a bad person could be stupidly bad. He's evil because he does this on purpose. Shapiro is not stupid. Charlie Kirk is not stupid. These were intelligent people, well above average in intelligence. We're talking people who were probably above 110 IQ, 115 IQ. These people were smart. And they're doing this knowing that they're talking nonsense out of their mouth. Oh, I saw something weird in my mouth. They do this intentionally and knowingly. They know the rhetoric they're spreading is complete BS. They know it's garbage. Everything he says regarding left and everything he says regarding transgender, he knows for a fact it's complete nonsense because he's not an idiot. He has a brain. He has a functioning brain. He does this on purpose. And your question should be, what's his motivations? Why? What's the intent? A lot of people don't realize when you have an influencer or proponent, the most important thing to know is not what their position is. That's not the important thing. Their quotes are not the important thing. And this reporter tried to get at that. A little around a foot way. I got to give the guy credit. He did pretty good handling Shapiro. He's a little older, so his brain is not quite as flexible and fast as Shapiro is. He's probably used to dealing with people who are a little more civilized. Shapiro is not exactly very civilized. He's a bit of a brute, conversationally. But I mean, normally Shapiro would never have this kind of discussion with a person like that. He's used to being able to bamboozle whoever he's talking to. And when he finally realized that this guy actually had the receipts, he came with receipts. That's when he bailed on the conversation and started slinging his slander and attacks and his insults at the guy. He just gave up any pretense and just started accusing him of all the bad things that he invented. That guy never said, that Shapiro invented. Every single thing he accused the reporter of were words that came out of Shapiro's mouth, not the reporter's mouth. He's a dirtball. He's a scumbag. He's the lowest of lowlifes. He's malicious and he's nasty and he's vicious. And the question you need to ask yourself is, what's his motivation? What's his intent? What's his objectives? Because that's what's important. Whenever you have somebody in a situation like this, your first thought should be not what is their position. Their position doesn't really matter. Their position is something that is superfluous in large extent. What you need is context and intent, because that changes everything. Whenever you have a weighted question, a question that's saddled with some gravity, your first instinct should be to ask, what is the context of this question, and what are your intentions? What is your objective, your goal? That's why he kept asking him questions about that kind of thing. How do you feel? Does that make you unhappy? Etc. He's trying to find out Shapiro's intent. And Shapiro refuses to answer because he knows those are important questions. And he can't list his intention. I don't know what they are. I know they're not good. I don't know what the objective is, but it's not good. It's definitely not good. Because everything he says is objectively false, does not follow any sort of science. It's just objectively false all around. Everything he says is bullshit. So what's his goal? What's his objective? Well, it's very easy to bamboozle a population where 54% of the adult population is functionally illiterate. My words. The study that was performed showed that 54% of the U.S. adult population does not have a literacy that goes beyond the 5th grade. That's approximately 10 years old. The average 5th grader is 10 years old. So 5th grade, 10 years is the literacy limit for 54% of the country. I don't know about you, but I call that functionally illiterate. 21% of the adult population is actually illiterate, fully illiterate. And only a third of those are immigrants. The rest are just Americans. That blew my mind. I couldn't believe it. all of a sudden how people like him and Kirk and Rogan and stuff like that can get away with the things they say, can convince people of the absolute nonsense they're speaking. When you realize that 54% of the population is functionally illiterate, suddenly it makes sense. That's not including children. Obviously, a 3-year-old's going to be basically illiterate. Okay, so that's adults. That's 54% of the adult population. So that's 54% of the 240 million people eligible to vote. Although that probably includes felons and crap like that. That's insane. That's insane. But suddenly it makes sense. It makes sense how this kind of hatred and nonsense can spread when the explanation just goes over the head of the people you're trying to explain it to, because they're literally not literate enough to understand. But there you go. That is the kind of that is such a good example of the kind of crap Shapiro does. He's just a very nasty, bad person.